So this is super important. Proper body position, proper tool position. I get a call from a guy in Illinois, cooperative in Illinois, lead lineman. And he says, hey man, he says, I'm going to go with this. He says, I'm using your analog, and on 7200, I'm getting 13,000 volts on 7200 with your analog. So lead lineman, he says, oh, we just got all your tools calibrated. We've been using your tools for about 6 years. This is about 4 years ago. And he says, they just, all of a sudden your tools suck and we're just not happy with your tools. So, I didn't want to argue with the lead lineman, because they know everything. And so you don't want to argue with them. And I flew out and I did an hour class indoors, and then we went outside and did another hour outdoors in about 8 inches of snow. And it was cold like today was here, but 8 inches of snow. And he gets in the bucket truck. So here's a corner pole, okay? We have energized three-phase. We have energized lines going this way. We have energized lines going this way, all right? He's at a corner pole, and he takes the broke tool, and he gets up in that bucket truck, and he gets back on his stick. He gets in the exact same location he was when he had 13,000 volts. He makes contact with the tool onto the energized source, and he gets about, on 7200, he gets about 7400 volts. Pretty accurate for an analog, wireless, pretty accurate. He gets down out of the bucket truck, and he explains to me everything that he was doing wrong in front of everybody. The lead lineman, think about it, the shepherd of the sheep. You're talking about, understanding and, where we've come from, where we need to go still today. And so this is part of that. He came out of the bucket truck and he told me, and this is so important, and he confessed that when he called me up, that he was in the bucket truck, he was short sticking. And he had his back to the enemy. He didn't consider the enemy back then. But I consider, if you're working hot, that energized source is my enemy. Okay, it's a beast, and it wants to kill you. And you better watch where it is and know where it is and what it does. Okay? And this is what he was doing. And what happened is that energized source behind him was flowing across and through his body, across his gloves. He had all his PP on, across his gloves, through the tool this opposite direction, because it'll work that way too. And then the conductor here, that current was flowing to this tool in relation to the ground this direction. So he literally became a wireless living, breathing phasing meter out of phase. Because if you're on 7200 and you're phasing and you're out of phase, you get about 13,000 volts. Isn't that right? Yep. And that's what he got. Pretty accurate phasing meter, his own body. He didn't know. No one ever taught him that. So proper body position is so important. All he did, here's when he called me. Okay, bucket truck is in the same location. All he did was go like this after the class. And the enemy is in front of him. Okay, and he got an accurate reading. So proper tool position. Proper tool position is if I come in on a vertical stack and I come into the middle phase, I'm going to want to be perpendicular to the bottom with my tool and as much perpendicular as possible with the top phase. You guys get that? And perpendicular to that long source. So I don't want to run this tool at an angle like this, because then it becomes close to the same potential. The closer, more parallel that tool gets, and maybe I don't have no voltage. Huh? It's de-energized, and it's not. It's the same phase. What you want to do is you want to make sure you go perpendicular. Okay? Always. Try as much as possible. Now, if you're on a horizontal stack, it's the same principle, same thought process. If this wrist right here, okay, this is a pole, and I got a pole ground on this. Let's say this. Here's a pole ground. If my tool is close to that pole ground, and I got an OH, because I'm overhead, I'm further from the ground plane, but I'm close to that pole ground, will I get a higher reading that's not quite so accurate because the tool is looking at that ground there? Will it? Should I see a higher number? And that's what you do. You do. So you got to make sure your tool's in the proper position. Keep them away from other sources the best way possible. If you work substation, you got a lot of ground planes nearby. And so if you're working a substation, you may need to go to URD. Because the ground, you might be high up in the air on some of that transmission coming in, some of the feed going out. But if you're high in the air and you've got ground planes around, you know how the tools work. Go to URD and you'll get more accurate. I just had a call recently about this, just a couple months, or about a month ago. Okay? And they're like, well, we think we know what's going on here, but is this what's going on? And yeah, absolutely. Okay? So make sure you have proper tool position, proper body position.